So to start, I'm going to load some lighting families into this file. So I'm going to go to Insert tab, Load Family. And then from here, go to Imperial Library and go to the lighting. From here, Architectural, Internal. And then I'm going to go with downlight, recess scan, spot, linear, uplight, scone light, topper light, these two. So hold the Control key and just insert these lightings. Now, in order to place these lightings, you need to go to the ceiling plans. So here, for example, I'm going to go to level 1. Next, I'm going to place just one of them in this area. So I'm going to use Troffer Light 2x2. And as you can see, we have a 2x2 ceiling tiles over here. And one thing which is important in placing your lightings is that make sure that the ceiling tiles are centered to the space. Okay, so we want them to be kind of symmetrical. Okay, so I'm gonna just place it over here. And then I'm just gonna place it here, and then I can use the align tool to just make it aligned with the ceiling tiles. Okay, and then we can make copies. If you want, you can make multiple copies of this. Just make sure the multiple is checked, and then place them wherever you want. Okay, next I want to add some pendant lights over here. Okay, so you see that we have some, if you remember, we have some wavy ceilings over here. Okay, so it's kind of weird, and we cannot actually place our lightings on these. These cannot actually be a good host for our lightings. So I'm gonna just click and select them. And then we need to cut them using Control X and then place our pendant lights. Let me show you. So use Control X. You see we have a 2x2 acoustic ceiling just behind it. So now I'm gonna just place some pendant lights over here. Pendants. Okay, for example, this one. I'm gonna place it and then I'm gonna rotate it. Okay, so just select and rotate it. And then I can move it. Okay. Now, after creating copies of this, next, actually, I need to bring back my wavy ceiling. Okay, so I use Control key to cut them, to kind of delete them temporarily. So if I want to have them back, I need to go to Modify tab, and from here, Paste. Just I want them to be placed in the same place they were. Actually, so I'm going to use Align to Same Place. Okay, just paste it in the same place they were. So Align, yes, and we have them back. Now, if I go to level 1 and create a camera view here, you can see the ceilings and this pendant lighting over here, okay? So you will be needing to insert some sconce lighting as well, okay, lighting fixtures. So for that, actually you need to use a wall as a host, okay? So you need to be in the floor plan view instead of the ceiling plan. So let's go to the architecture component, and then from here, sconce. Okay, so you see you need to pick a wall to place it. Okay. Let's go to the ceiling plan again. If I click here and select my pendant ceiling and then go to edit type, actually from here you can change the this distance, okay, drop from ceiling. So if you want it to be closer to the floor, you can just make it longer or shorter, okay? And one more thing that we can adjust here is initial intensity. So for example, if you want your light to have a higher wattage or a lower wattage, you can just come here and change it, okay? Let's hit OK. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is to set the geographic location of our project, okay? So you may want to run a sun or daylight study for your project, and for that, it's important to make sure that the sun is located in the right place in the sky and it's coming from the right direction, okay? So for that, we need to tell Revit where on Earth our project is located. Okay, so to set that, we need to go to Manage, and then from here select Location, okay, Project Location, Location. And then it shows a map to use, so it's by default it is set to Minneapolis. So I'm going to change it to Lubbock. I'm going to hit enter. So it shows me some options over here. So I'm going to click on Lubbock, Texas. So, and then hit OK. And we have it. We just told Revit that our project is located in Lubbock, okay? Next thing we're going to do is to adjust sun settings, okay? For that, we need to come here to additional settings, and here is the sun settings. Or you can just come here, from here, and click, and just go to sun settings, okay? So here we have different options. Let me check something just quick. Okay. So here we can just choose the between different options that we have. So you can just choose still, or if you want to pick a single day, you can just set it over here, or you can just tell Revit which direction your sun wants to come through your building. Okay, so I want sunlight from top right to come into the building or from top left. Okay, so I'm gonna, for example, select steel, and then from here you can set a date or you can set a time. For example, you want the sun to be, for example, on the 3 p.m. Okay, and then uncheck this, and from here you can just pick the time of the year that you want. For example, summer solstice or winter solstice or any other things. Or if you want to make changes to these, then you can just create a duplicate of this and just rename it to whatever you want. Or you can delete it from here. Okay, and then just hit OK. So the next thing we're going to do is to tell Revit which direction is the true north for our project. Okay, so when you start building and drawing your project in Revit, you will place your project in a way that your project north in this drawing, which is right at the top, is a bit off of the true north. And you do this because you want the walls to be just parallel to these edges, okay? And that actually makes your life easy because you won't be needing to just rotate everything whenever you want to place them here, okay? So in this case, we need to tell Revit which direction is the true north, because we want our sunlight to be accurate. And if you want to run a daylight study, you have to do this. Okay, so to set the true north, we need to go to the site plan view. Okay, and then from here, we need to change the orientation. You see that it's right now it's set to project north, so we're going to change it to true north. Okay, and then we need to tell Revit the direction of the true north. So for that, we need to come here in the Manage tab, Project Location, Position, come here and select Rotate True North, okay? And then from here, you can tell it that, for example, True North is here. Okay, so it actually changed the True North for this view. And if you want to change it for any other view, you need to go there and then change it to true north. Okay, so it doesn't change the other views, Okay, so any view that this orientation in that is set to project north, this will not apply to that. Okay. So next thing I'm going to talk about is custom materials. So when you download a Revit family, like a piece of furniture or any other thing from a manufacturer's website, usually they come within a pack, like a zip file. And within that file, you are usually able to find the Revit file as well as the texture or bitmap they have used for its material. Okay, so whenever you download a block or a family from a website, you need to link the images inside that file to your project. Otherwise, Revit would not be able to find the bitmap that corresponds to that specific material, and the material of the object you have downloaded would not appear correctly in your renderings, okay? So if you go to the material browser and just select the material of the object you have downloaded. For example, I'm just gonna pick one randomly. So, and go to the Appearance tab. Here, you would see that this image is not loaded and is missing. Okay, so you will see a question mark over here or something like that. Okay, so whenever you download a block, first of all, you need to extract the zip file, okay? And it's so important because Revit cannot be linked to a zip file. So first, right-click on the zip file and extract it. And then it's better to just copy the content of that folder to your material library or material folder, okay? This way, you won't be needing to link each folder separately to your project for each piece you download. So I'm going to show you how to link a folder or a path in your computer to your project, okay? Just one more thing before we move on. Sometimes when you download blocks from a manufacturer like Steelcase, for example, they might have their material library in a separate location than their files. So in this case, you need to download the material library separately and then link it to your project. So they will have all the bitmaps and textures inside just that one folder. Okay, now let's go to the Steelcase website and see what I'm talking about exactly. So for example, imagine that I'm here and I want to download in this piece. Okay, so just you come here and download the Revit version you want. And then after it is downloaded, you need to come here and then just right click and extract it. Okay. Then if you see, we have only the Revit file over here. Okay, so we don't have the material, the bitmaps or textures of materials in here. So what you need to do is to go here to Revit Material Library. You need to download it. Okay, so I've already downloaded this file. So you need to download this file and then extract it. So if you go inside the folder, you see that here we have all the bitmaps. Okay, so we need to link this folder to our project. So for that, you need to come here, go to File, and then from here select on Options. Select the options and come here and click on Rendering. And then we need to add a path to that folder to here. So just click on this green button and then click here, click on these three dots. So find the folder and then just click and link it. Okay, so if you hit OK, this is linked to your project. And that's it actually. Okay, next I'm going to show you how to change or modify your rendering settings. Okay, so for that you need to, first of all, we are going to create a camera view and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to add a camera view here. So let's do it in this room, actually. Okay, now we are going to play with this camera view. So make changes to this view and then finally get to the render settings. So first of all, do not forget to just uncheck Far Clip Active. Okay, so, and then you should know that the camera height and the target height in the camera views like this are set to 5 feet 6 inches. Okay, so it's by default in Revit, and that's actually the average eye height of a person. So if you want, you can change it from here, or you can just use the navigation wheel and you can use up, down. So it actually moves your camera and your camera target at the same time. So you can use this one. Or if you want to turn your head, you can just use the look option here. And this way, you are actually just turning your head. You are changing your camera target location. Okay, so you can use this one. You can walk into this space. You can go to front and get back, walk. Okay, so if you want to do slight changes, you can use this navigation wheel. Let's just close this. Okay, and finally, if you want to see a bigger portion of this room, you can just pick the crop region and then pick this grips and make it wider and make changes to this view. Okay, so you can make it larger. So you can use this method, or you can just click and select the crop region and come here and click on size crop. Okay, so for example, you may want to have two renderings with the exact same size. This way you can use this method. However, you can always crop your renderings after you created them. Okay, now if you switch back to level 1, okay, you see that we're not able to see the physical camera here. Okay, so in order to make it visible and be able to see that, you need to select the view you created. So this 3D view, which one was that actually? So I forgot to name it. So this one, 3D view 10. Go to 3D views, 3D view 10, and then right click and click on show camera. Now I'm able to see the camera. Okay, and you see that it's actually wider than the initial camera we inserted in this view. Just when you are making adjustment to this view, make sure not to just make it so wide, okay, because that kind of disproportionate the view, and we don't want that. Okay, so it should have a reasonable proportion. Okay. Okay, now let's get to the render settings. Okay, so you can modify and control render settings either by coming here and clicking on this show rendering dialog, or you can come to the view tab and then clicking on the render button over here. Okay, so you have two options to get to this rendering dialog. Now you see that we can control the quality settings from here. So you see that it's set to draft right now. Actually, draft is suitable for the times you want to have a test render. So you want to have you want to see quickly what's going on in your rendering and how does that look, how does that look like. So for that, you can select draft. But for your final, with these ones, you will have better and better, much better quality. So for your final renderings, you would probably use high or best from this menu. Okay, so for now, I'm going to leave it to draft, but do not forget to set this to high or best for your final renderings. And from here, output settings, we will set the resolution. So again, a screen is just for test renders, but if you want to have your final renders, it's important to check this printer. And then for your final renderings, choose 300 dpi, or just 300 would work. Okay. So I'm going to leave it to 150 for now, and screen. And then from here, you can change the lighting settings. So if you want to create an interior renderings, you have the option to create an interior rendering with sun only. So we would have only sunlight without any artificial light, or you can pick this one, interior, sun, and artificial light. So, or interior with artificial only. So you can pick between these, and if you are going to create exterior renderings, you can pick one of these. So I'm going to pick sun and artificial for right now, because yeah, because you may have some lightings in here and you want them to actually to be present in your renderings. So, and from here you can set your sun settings. So you saw that we have set some settings from here previously. So you can just load it into your render settings from here. Okay, so you can just come here and pick whatever you want from this window. And then if you click on artificial lights window, you can see all the lights, all the artificial light fixtures you have used in your project in this list. Okay, and you have the option to create groups of these lightings. So for example, you can create a new group here, change it to, rename it to whatever you want. For example, just workroom or anything. And then pick the lights that are related to that group and then move them to that group. Okay, and that actually helps you to, for example, if you want to create a render, an interior rendering, and you don't want them to be active or to be shining in your renderings, then you can turn them off easily by clicking on this group. Okay, and you also have the option to change the dimming factor or dimming value from here. So you can make it lower from here so they won't be that shiny in your renderings. And yeah, that's it. And then we also have the option to set the background and environment in our rendering. So for example, I want to see a specific image or a specific view from this window. If you want that, then you can come here and pick image. Okay, and then load an image here, and whatever you load in here, you would see that image just through your windows in your renderings. Okay, and also you can set the sky. You can, for example, say I want my environment to be a sky with few clouds. I want my sky to be cloudy, very cloudy, or no cloud, just sunny. So you can choose between these in here. And at the end, when you have created your renderings, you can just adjust exposure at the end. So I'm gonna run a render right now. So it would be quick because all the quality settings are very low right now. So while it is rendering, you see these warnings over here. So these are the images that the Revit cannot find the sources for them. So they are not linked. And that is about what we have talked previously about linking the images or bitmaps to your file. Okay. So it seems that something is going wrong in here, and I think my camera is not in the right, it's kind of in the middle of the wall. So let's go and see. Yes, it is. So I'm gonna move this to here, and then I'm also going to add an artificial lighting inside this space. So I'm gonna go to architecture component, and I'm gonna place some lights over here. So it's not a good one actually, but I'm just doing it for the sake of rendering. I want to have some artificial lightings. Okay. So we have sun and artificial lighting. And let's hit render. And one more thing is that as you just actually increase your quality settings from here, if you put it on high or best or even medium, it would take longer for you for actually Revit to render than, for example, this draft one. Okay, it's just going to be a test render, and it should not make so much time. Actually, it should not take so much time. So it depends. The time actually depends on the settings, the quality settings and output settings here. Okay, so this is the final render of the view, and as you see, it's too dark. And I reduced the number of artificial lights because it was taking too much time, so I reduced it. And then I'm gonna adjust the exposure here just to make it better. Okay, so you can come here and change the exposure value. You can make it brighter and hit apply, and you see that it's much better. You have some kind of problem here, and it's too light in here, but yeah, you need to do adjustments here after you have created your renderings. Okay, so just hit OK, and then you can either save it to your project. So I can give it a name, for example, just 3D, just one, for example. Okay, and it will be saved in my project browser in my project. You can come into this section, renderings, open it, and this is my rendering. Okay, so you can just from here directly drag it into your sheet and place it into your sheet. Okay, and also you can export it to a file. So you can export it as a JPEG or PNG or things like that, and then save it to your computer, and then you can just make adjustment and make changes to it. For example, you can add people inside the rendering. You can change the lightings, you can change the exposure, you can add some backgrounds behind the window and things like that. Okay, so you can do those in Photoshop, for example. And also using this button, you can actually switch between your rendering and your model. Okay, so just click, and here you can see your renderings. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is rendering in cloud. So you have the option in Revit to render in cloud, and that won't use your system memory and things like that, and it's going to be pretty fast. So for that, you need to come to View tab, and from here, click on Render in Cloud. Okay, so it's saying the steps to use. So it is saying the service will notify you when your images are ready. So, and for just at the end, you need to select View Render Gallery. Here we have it, just to be able to see your rendering, which is ready. Okay, so continue with this step. And from this window, you can just control some of the quality settings and things like that. So you can set, say, for example, I want 3D view 10. I want this view to be rendered. And then you want the output type. Do you want a panorama? Do you want a still image or what? And then rendering quality. image size and exposure. Okay, so and you just need to hit enter, hit render actually. It's showing me some warnings that we had and we have seen previously, so it's all related to images that are not linked to my file right now. Hit OK. So rendering in cloud actually have some advantages and some disadvantages. So some of the advantages are, one of them is that it's actually pretty fast. Okay, so it's just so fast. And the other one is that you can continue working on your project, okay, while you are rendering in the cloud. So you don't need to wait for your render to be ready. And you can do more than one rendering at a time. But it also has some disadvantages. And those are sometimes some materials can lose their qualities in your rendering. And sometimes some architectural pieces disappear just in your rendering, okay? And one more disadvantage is that during busy times of the year, like final season, it can take significantly longer time than your computer. Okay, so it takes a lot of time to prepare a render for you. So that depends on the time that you want your render to be ready. Okay, depends on the time of the year. So in order to see your rendering, you need to come here and click on Render Gallery. So it will take you to this window, and for this actually your you should be logged in into your Autodesk 360 account. Okay, for this you should be logged in. So come here, and from here, for example, you can see the rendering that I've created before. You can see it here, and yeah. And you can just from here, you can download it and save it to your computer. Okay. So next, I'm going to show you how to create a rendering of a 3D view in your model. Okay, so let's switch to the 3D view. Okay, for that, let's go to a good, let's rotate this. Okay. For that, you need to come here into the Properties palette, and from here in the Extend section, just click on this section box. Okay, so now you are able to see this section box around your model. Okay, so you can just grab these scripts and move them to wherever you want. And then when you set your view or something, you can just zoom in onto one specific region of your model, for example, and then make it small. It totally depends on which space you want to zoom in and create a rendering from. Okay, so I'm going to just create a rendering of the whole level. So I'm going to make it smaller. Then you can create a duplicate of this view and just rename it. So I'm going to create a duplicate. So whenever you switch to this view, you will see this this view actually. So and then you can lock your view. So it won't, if you move it just accidentally, it won't move this way. Okay. So it will be locked. So I'm going to lock the view, and then I'm going to change the visual style to consistent colors, for example. Okay. Now I'm going to render this view. Okay, so I go here And from here, choose sun only because it's kind of an exterior. We don't want to have the artificial lights in our rendering here. So, and from here, I can choose, for example, sunlight from top left or right. And then the background, so our background would be this over here, this white. Okay, so I'm gonna change this style to color. I want to have a color in this background, so and set it to white. If you want it in any other color black or anything like that, you can change it from here. And then just hit render and it's done.